You can only change and choose to handle things react to them the way you choose to. You can only choose to respond to things the way you do. So the only person really you need to work on is yourself.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on our last episode of Doing Away with Negative Feelings, and looking forward to next episode, where we're going to be talking about how can this be easy? Let it be easy, and the power behind that mantra. Today's episode, however, is with the one and only Jenny Ma, who is a mindful health integration counselor and coach. And this episode is so great for all of you business leaders and people who are passionate about what they do and put in so much time and effort that they forget to take care of themselves. And what we talk about in this episode is the importance of getting back to nature, and also how to handle conflicting relationships and conversations that come at you with aggression and negativity. I know you're going to love this one. It's a powerful episode. I hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be a great day because we are sitting down with the founder and director of Mindful Health Integrative Counselling and Coaching. What makes her so unique is that she draws from a host of resources in terms of mindfulness, cognitive behavioral therapy, and fascinatingly, a close connection with nature when she's supporting her clients with positive mental health, healing, and personal growth. And she also happens to have recently started a great podcast called Real Talk with Jenny and Jay, and I invite everyone to listen to it. We are sitting down with none other than the wonderful Jenny Ma. Please join me in welcoming her. Hi, Jenny.
Hi, Tarryn. How are you?
So well, thank you. It's so great to have you on the show today, and I am so excited to see you in a spring attire, bringing some lightness and joy and excitedness for the summer and the spring to come. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
It's actually very apropos because what I love about what you do is this integration of nature and the healing benefits of nature into your practice. Please explain to us how you integrate nature when you're talking to your clients and supporting them with their needs.
Yeah, so the one thing that is so important for us to do as humans, and that we really, really forget nowadays with the rush of living in the city and all the stresses that we go through, is really connecting to our roots. And the best way to do that is just get grounded, get connected with nature, get grounded. And the easiest way to get grounded is doing things so simple, like going outside and walking barefoot on the grass and feeling that energy from the earth, and getting that into your system and reconnecting with nature and feeling the soil between your toes. And it's, sort of the equivalent of walking barefoot on a beach, that sandy beach, feeling the sand between your toes and taking in a deep breath of fresh air. And there's something really, really beautiful about having a session outside with a client in nature, because there's a sense of freedom that you don't get in a clinical setting. So, people can come into an office and they can sit on a couch or sit on the chair and they can sort of explore the things that are bothering them, but within the confines of an office space. And there's really nothing that's motivating about that or freeing about that, or gives someone a sense of the ability to let go and really get to the root causes of, what the issues are and what's sort of bugging them and nagging at them and what they can explore. And when you're out in nature, that's all nature is the chance to explore, right? So I always find that, having a conversation in an indoor setting is somewhat limited, right? It puts us in that box that we always talk about, getting outside the box. Having an office setting always puts us inside that box.
Clever.
So when we're out in nature, we have a chance to get outside of that box, and the things around us make us explore and make us question things and think about things that we might not have thought of. of. And as we start to talk and we start to unpack the things that we're going through, right? The challenges, the things that we are thinking in our mind and creating in our mind that may be fact, maybe fiction, maybe, a result of, past traumas, things like that. We're able to draw from the elements of nature and have that sense of freedom and that ability to let go, right? And really go down a bunch of different avenues that maybe we haven't been able to explore before. So, we've got the meditative side of being out in nature, getting grounded in nature, the freedom of nature, the fresh air, which is so important for us right now. We've all been stuck inside, and this pandemic has really taken a toll on our mental health, and our well-being. So just getting outside and just getting a breath of fresh air is so underestimated right now.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you're talking to me from Ontario, where most of the year is not very pleasant to be outside. So, how do you do this for yourself when you're living in a part of the world where it's cold and uncomfortable to be outside most of the year?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think that, if you have a goal of harnessing positive mental health, don't let anything stop you. So, it might be raining, put on a raincoat. It might be cold, put on your boots. Don't let the weather stop you and impede you, and there's so many wonderful places that you can check out, that you can go to. There's wonderful hiking spots, there's camping spots, there's a lot of beautiful different, paths that are nearby. So the weather shouldn't inhibit you from going out at all. And you don't have to stay out for huge lengths of time. Just a 5 minute, 10 minute, 15 minute walk. Weather permitting. Obviously, you're not going to go out in a blizzard, but but even in the wintertime, sometimes if I'm just driving in the car, even in the wintertime, I'll roll down my window just a little bit, even with the cold. But that burst of fresh air,
Mm,
even when you're driving. So being a part of nature is just so accessible, and it's
interesting.
really us that's just keeps us inside. Do you know what I mean? It's really us that says, "Oh, well, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, well, I'll only go out for a few minutes." Or, we stop ourselves, but really it's so accessible, and we have the chance to take advantage of it every minute of the day, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating to me. I love this idea. A couple years ago, my mom was working at a hospital and caring for patients, and they incorporated in the center of a hospital an atrium with some
Mm,
plants and some waterfalls. And there were several studies done in this hospital that showed that people just got better faster. They had
yeah.
a better attitude about their care and about the influence that the doctors had on them, that they were able to heal better when they got into the garden, when they even could just look at the garden, even if some of them couldn't get outside, just having a view of nature seemed to
Mhm.
make a big difference. It's a really interesting concept to me. When was the first time that you discovered the power of nature in your own life?
Yeah, so I think probably from an early age, I was always outside or swimming or going on nature walks with my grandparents. That was always a big thing with us. So that was always a part of me. And then I was a dancer for a lot of years. I did a lot of jazz and tap and all that musical theater stuff, and so we would often practice, outside on the grass. And
Yeah.
it's a great spot to practice your turns and your flips and all that stuff. So it's always been a part of my life. And I notice that when I don't get outside and when I don't get into nature and I don't get a chance to connect, that I almost kind of draw within myself, and I start to feel a little bit low, and I start to feel sort of disconnected with the world. And there's something to be said for the power of nature. When we look at plants, they don't need our help, right? They don't need our help to grow. They don't need our help to blossom, to flourish. They take from the sun, they take from the soil, they take from all of the elements around them
Mm,
to flourish and to grow and to bloom. And it's just such a beautiful thing. And they give off this oxygen that we need to breathe, and they give us this beautiful flowers and buds and blooms to look at. Like, you can't look at a a lot of flowers and not feel happy. You Do you know what I mean? Just the colors,
Absolutely.
and even, we're so lucky here in Ontario that we have the 4 seasons, and I don't know if you've ever I'm sure you have seasons where you are too, right? The fall season and
Oh, yes, we have a
yeah.
phenomenal fall season in Maine.
Yeah, so it's just the colors of the leaves that change and the science behind that. It's
Mm,
just so beautiful. Like, it's just amazing how things happen.
mm,
And, when you're talking about getting grounded and putting your feet in the soil, the soil is so vitamin rich, you
mm,
know,
mm.
in certain places now. And, just really a great way to reconnect. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating how so many times we forget about the power of just getting outside into nature. And it's also an opportunity to slow down. We're
Mhm.
multitasking all the time, living in this very sympathetic nervous system driven world,
Yeah.
fight to flight to flee. And when you're in nature, it stimulates that parasympathetic nervous system that allows you to kind of be more focused, have more intention in the moment, be more
Yeah.
present in the moment. And I can definitely see the power of that. It was a couple years ago when there was a study done over in Japan. I think it was in the 80s when they did the study with the businessmen and women who were so driven and high achievement focused. And they were actually promoting for them through the national health something called forest bathing, where they
Mm,
would have them get out of the office
yes.
space and go into the forest for a while, and they were actually supporting it financially from the state was actually supporting people to get out into the woods and out into the forest. So I think it's so cool that you're using this um, in your support of your patients and of your clients. What is something
Absolutely.
that you recommend for anybody in terms of getting outside? Is it something what do you recommend in terms of making sure you incorporate it into your daily life?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's exactly it, is just making sure you incorporate it.
Mm,
So, you wanna make sure that, getting outside is also making sure you get enough vitamin D too, and vitamin D, we've seen tons of studies that vitamin D intake helps to reduce anxiety and depression.
mm,
And it's knowing how to use the sun, make the sun work for you. So you're not going to go out of the hottest parts of the day and stay out there for an hour and get, nice and crispy. That's not that's not the best option. But it's going out just before the height of the sun and going out for 15 minutes and what they call sunbathing, similar to what you were talking about just now, the plant bathing. And it's going out and looking right up at the sun and taking in that energy and
mm,
taking in that vitamin D and making it work for you, and spending that 10-15 minutes outside, or going out, after dinner for a walk. They say eat a while, walk a mile. That's the saying, right?
mm,
So, most of us eat dinner and then we sit on the couch, or we go back to work in a high stress environment, or, something like that. So, it's always great to get out and go for a walk. And so you really have to just take the time and make that commitment to yourself to incorporate it. And when you start doing that on a regular basis, a consistent basis, what we find is that not only are you able to clear your mind quicker of any stresses and anxieties and in that overthinking process, right? Not only are you able to clear your mind quicker, but you're also able to get in that extra exercise, which makes you feel good. And anytime you exercise, we know that those endorphins make you feel good, right? Those are the happy hormones, we call them, right? And anytime you do that, then your mindset changes, naturally. It's sort of it's you become acclimated to your regime, you know so it's something that might be uncomfortable at first to do, because nobody wants to go, hey, I'm gonna exercise today. I have never really heard someone be enthusiastic about starting that process where they
mhm,
haven't had that process in place before.
mhm,
So it can be difficult, but making that commitment to yourself and getting into that habit and that routine, and then feeling those incremental improvements over time just changes your whole mindset. You think differently, you see things differently, you react differently. And one of the things that I like to focus on with clients is learning how to respond instead of react. And
ooh,
yeah, and that's a big one. And especially when I'm talking about relationships, because we can often perceive one circumstance to be a certain way without really understanding the deep rootedness of it. So we have to learn that sort of that disassociation, right? So sometimes when we're faced with a situation, we can think we interpret it differently than what it actually is, because our emotions are involved, our ego is involved, our mindset is involved. And if we don't have a healthy mindset, we're going to see things differently, as opposed to if we've taken care of ourselves, eaten right, gotten outside, exercised, and we might see things differently. So it's changing that mindset. So it's learning how to respond instead of react. And you can only do that when you're in a place of balance and calm. And when you're in a place of calm, you're in a place of power. So not only of yourself, but of the things around you, right?
Oh, I love that. When you're in a place of calm, you're in a place of power.
Absolutely.
So cool, because so often when you're in that frantic place, you feel completely unempowered and
Mhm.
reactive. And that's when you
Reactive.
say the wrong thing and put your foot in your mouth or hurt a relationship unintentionally.
Absolutely. I mean, that happens to the best of us. That happens every day. You come home after a hard day of work, and yeah, you walk in the door and someone says something to you and you're like, "Well, what did you mean by that?"
Exactly.
And from your perspective, it's like, well, I just came in. Why are you asking me this? What did you mean by that? And all the person is asking you is just, what do you want for dinner? you know? So was it really that they came at you and were really aggressive in their tone? Or did they just open their mouth and you didn't hear them, so they spoke more loudly so you could hear them? Like, there's that disassociation, right? Did they really say something off the cuff, or did they turn their mouth to a 45-degree angle when they said that and you interpreted it as rude?
So next time, because this is absolutely something that happens in my life all the time, Jenny, and I'm sure to so many of my listeners. So next time that happens, what do you suggest we do when you're caught in that moment of realization? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't the story I'm telling myself. Maybe the story I'm telling myself is not the reality. What do you suggest in that moment we can do?
Absolutely. So when you're faced with something that seems sort of off kilter to you, what I always recommend is, before reacting, just take a step back, take a breath, and reevaluate the situation in your mind, knowing where you're at and where you're coming from, taking that into account. Are you on a high alert day?
Mm,
Are you irritable? Are you annoyed?
mm,
What's the stock? What's the investment in yourself right now? What are your emotion what's your emotional value right now?
mm,
Are you on high alert, or are you in a place of calm? Because you'll see the situation differently. So first, take a step back, take a breather, and assess where you are personally.
mm,
Then reevaluate what the person or circumstance is, what really was said and what really happened. And this is a hard thing to do.
mm,
Again, it happens to the best of us.
mm,
Did they really say what you heard, or were they saying it in a way that was unpleasant to you but wasn't meant with any malice? You
mm,
know,
mm,
it's how you interpret it, right? So what is the truth of the situation? Not how I heard it or how I perceived it, but what is the truth of the situation?
mm,
And then as you replay it, if you're still confused about it and you're still offended, I always suggest asking, "I'm sorry, I don't understand. What did you mean by that?"
mm. Clarity.
Ask ask for further explanation and for
Mm,
further clarity. And communication is the ROI of communication is exponential. I mean, you can never spend too much time trying to understand yourself or the people around you. It is invaluable. It is
wow.
invaluable. With great clarity, your emotional intelligence skyrockets. And that's what gives you the ability to respond and not react. And it also, I find, I've had a lot of very high stress careers, and I have always found that when you react in a very heightened way, in a very defensive way, it just escalates the issue. So
Absolutely.
whenever I find that people that I'm around, that I'm dealing with, the louder they get, the calmer I get.
Hmm.
And it's hard for people who are in that combative state, really, once they realize that you're not reacting to their behavior, they start to come down because they expect that, right? When someone's upset and they respond to you in a way that's aggressive or upsetting or, in your face or combative, they're expecting you to fight back, right? Because
Mm.
they're looking for a challenge, right? That's where the ego comes in, right? That's where the heat of the body comes in, right? That's where the liver starts acting up and working out, and you know
Yeah.
and that's what people are looking for. They're looking for your reaction. They want to have a debate. So the higher they get, the calmer I get, and that seems to sort of balance out, and then you can have an effective communication process. But it's always great to evaluate where you are first. I always say it's hard to is we do a lot of this
Finger
to people
pointing.
in our lives. I always say it's really hard to do this.
If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you didn't get into business to be miserable. The problem is that people feel that if their business gets busier, if they start becoming more successful, that happiness will eventually set in. But it can actually get worse. This is why I created the Business of Happiness Prosperity Coaching. In this one on one coaching, we look at how to redefine success on your terms and re-find the joy and the passion in your dream. Visit me at thebizofhappiness.com and become the happiest business owner you know.
So I always suggest looking at yourself first,
Yeah.
and
For
then
those of you who are not watching this podcast
yes,
but listening
sorry.
to it, no, that's great. It's so powerful what you just did. So I want our listeners to be able to see what Jenny was saying. Is it's so easy to point at someone and
Mhm.
lay blame and tell them what you think they should be doing, but very difficult to turn that finger around and point it at yourself. So please
Absolutely.
expand on that for us.
Yeah, so, you're in a say you're in a discussion or a heated argument, and, someone says something to you that you don't like, and your reaction is, well, if you didn't do that, then I wouldn't feel like this.
Yes.
But let's really look at the situation. What are they really doing, and why is it bothering you?
Mm.
And is this person a person of value in your life? That's another thing that you want to look at. Is this person is how they're feeling and what they're saying, what's the ROI of that to you in your life? Because a lot of us nowadays seem to try to want to keep up with the Joneses.
Ha.
And a lot of us place a great deal of importance about what people think and say about us. And 90% of those people we don't even know.
Ha.
So, I'm a big believer that what other people what other people's opinions of me is none of my business. What your
Mm.
opinion of me is none of my business. So we really have to look at who the person is and what they mean to us in our lives. And if they're upset, well, then this should be an area of concern that we need to discuss and communicate with and work through. But why am I reacting the way I'm reacting? Why do I feel like what you're saying is offensive to me? What is it about what you're saying or doing that I'm taking offense to?
Mm.
And look at that for a minute before we start pointing the finger at, well, if you didn't do this, or if you did this, this would be better, or if you can't change anybody. You can only change yourself. You can encourage people to work with you to do better, but you can't change anybody else. You can't change your partner, you can't change your kids, you can't change your coworkers, you can't change your friends. You can only change and choose to handle things react to them the way you choose to. You can only choose to respond to things the way you do. So the only person really you need to work on is yourself. And I know that's hard to hear for a lot of us, because it's so easy for us to say, well, I want somebody else to be accountable for that. I want somebody
Yes.
else to be responsible. And they may be, the responsibility and accountability may lie with them. They may have done something wrong to you, but we need to examine ourselves first and say, well, okay, well, if this person is mistreating me, then I have a choice here. I can either accept that and allow them to continue to mistreat me,
Huh.
or I can say, you know what? I don't find that acceptable, and I'm no longer going to allow that in my life. And that's a choice. And those may be choices that we don't like, but we always have a choice.
Giving yourself back that power once again.
Absolutely, because you
Mm,
can't, again, you can't change the other person. They may not stop mistreating you. Maybe that's just a part of them. Maybe that's how they deal with conflict. Maybe there's things that they haven't unpacked in their life and they don't realize that they're doing that, but that's how they respond in times of stress or anxiety. But that doesn't mean that you have to bear the brunt of that. So you can choose to communicate and work through it, or you can choose not to and not have that in your life. But that you can only change yourself.
So, how about for the person who says, Jenny, that's easy for you to say, but you maybe not in a business. Here I am. I'm a business owner. I have a team. I
Mhm,
have patients or clients that I need to impress in order to
mhm,
maintain this business. So
mhm,
easy to say that their opinion of me is none of my business. But what about when it is important to know your effect on someone else? What about when you get the feeling that, well, their opinion is important for the well-being of my business?
hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I like to approach those things with empathy.
Mm,
I like to apply a lot of empathy. So I say so if we're talking about, say, maybe a coworker
mm.
who's not sort of performing up to par, or there's some conflict there, and it's just kind of you're rubbing each other the wrong way, or things like that. I would really approach that from a place of empathy, and I would sit down and say, like, listen, like, what's going on in your life? Tell me what's going on with you. I want to hear about you. What's
Mm.
happening with you in your life? And give that person a chance to sort of get off the defense and really have someone listen to them. And maybe you will understand that, well, the reason they've been so combative lately is because maybe they're going through a divorce and they just lost their house and their kid is sick. And there's all these elements that, because you're in a business, you wouldn't know really personally what's going on with them.
Absolutely.
So I would take the time to invest in who you're working with, to really understand the position that you're in and have empathy there and say, listen, I'm sorry that you're going through all this. This is really a lot. And you know what? I really commend you for showing up here every day and doing the work that you do. And if I didn't think you were a person of value, I wouldn't have you in my business.
Beautiful.
But here's the thing, I want you to continue to be a part of this team. And so I want to be able to I want to know two things that I could do today that will help you get through this tough time. But I want to ask you in return for these three things that you can make a commitment here with us in this business today, because I want to make sure we have a really great working relationship.
Love that. Love that because I love the clarity of it as well. Let's
Mhm.
get down to what's actually going on here and how can I support you? And then the second part that you included there was the clarity of what I need from you.
Absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely. Because you need to have that foundation of trust, that foundation of communication, that foundation of understanding, and that may, hopefully, that's where it lies. Hopefully that's where it ends, and that's where it starts to build, and that's where it starts to get better.
mhm.
And you can grow from that, and you both feel supported, and you both feel heard, and you both feel listened to and acknowledged and appreciated. And there may be times when, all of those efforts may not work out and the person just may not work out. And you're just going to have to say, you know what? I really love you as a person. I think what you do is great, but it's just not working out in this business. And I really want to help you to find something that you're more passionate about. So if that's a reference letter or if that's, giving you what you need, but I think we should, you know, I think you should move on, and we should move on, and let's stay friends, but it's not working out as a business. And you might have to do that. And that's a tough call sometimes, but you got to do what's best for your business and what's best for everybody involved. But yeah, it's always about empathy and support.
Powerful, powerful advice, Jenny.
Thank
Powerful. I love that. I love that. So how did you come to this business and the support that you offer your clients? What was your story in terms of your path and your journey in your life that brought you to this counseling and coaching for leaders and for other leaders of their lives?
Yeah, I started out in pre-med, and I've had very high stress jobs, high stress careers. I worked in the ambulance for a little bit. Then I switched over from medicine into law, and spent the last 10 years in the legal field. And I've worked with, the community and people in marginalized communities, and a lot of child welfare and family court stuff. And so I've had that sort of background for quite some time. And in my former life, I was a clinical nutritionist. So I worked with a lot of patients with unique diseases and presented very atypically. So I have to figure out sort of, what the root causes of all that was, and reverse engineer their complete health history to get to the root of everything. So that's sort of where I came from a little bit. That's a brief, synopsis of where I'm coming from. But what I found was that, and particularly this past year or so, people have really struggled with mental health and wanting to just change their mindset and be in a better place, mind, body, and soul.
Mm,
And we're moving. I wanted to offer a safe space for people to talk about tough stuff
mm,
that was sort of outside the box again, outside the office setting, outside of a clinical setting, something that gave people a little bit more freedom to just feel comfortable, to really sort of unpack and explore the deep rooted issues that they're having, and how that affects them in their life, and the decisions they make, and the choices they make, and the paths they choose, because what affects them affects the people around them too.
mm.
And that can happen in a negative way, and that can happen in a positive way. And what we want to do is change those negatives to positives, because when you're living in a positive mindset, and you have joy and you have balance in your life, it affects everybody around you. It affects your
Absolutely. It's that ripple effect.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the business that you're in, all about roots and root causes, right? So when we're talking about getting down to the roots, we're really talking about, the brain is so plastic, the neuropsychology of everything is just, changing those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, and being able to plant your brains and your neurons and your dendrites and your axons and the neurotransmitters, they're all like little branches, right? They're all like little roots. And when you plant negative roots, they just grow more negative roots. So we want to get in there, rip those negative roots out, and put fresh new roots in, And the more you do that over a consistent basis and over time, you grow a healthy brain. You grow new thoughts. And we've all heard this before, but where your energy goes, energy flows, right? So you change your mindset, you change your thoughts, you change your habits, you change your life, you change the people around you.
I love that. I love that. And so cool that it gives permission for anybody to change, because sometimes I think it can be intimidating. People see you at this great level of development and self confidence and happiness, and it's intimidating. Some people feel like they just are stuck, or
Mhm.
just will always have a negative outlook, or
Yeah.
sometimes feel like a victim of their circumstances, that they're just going to always have to deal with negativity in their lives. And I love that permission that people can change at a very cellular level.
Absolutely, absolutely, for
Mm.
sure. And we all have the power to do that. And I think, when I do, that's one of the things that I focus on with Real Talk, with my podcast, is is not sugarcoating anything. I don't sugarcoat anything. I give you a straight up answer. And I've had moments where I've given clients an answer, or patients an answer, and I've said, well, listen, I think this is the situation. And they've not liked it. They've not liked it. They've been upset. They've not wanted to acknowledge, the truth and the real talk of things, because we've gotten so used to everybody sort of coddling us and,
Mm,
oh, they're there. It's okay. And
mm,
sometimes it's not. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, you just got to get off your butt and go for it and do it.
mm,
Um, but in those situations, they've always come back and said, you know what, you were right.
mm.
And I see that. And it's just a matter of being accountable. But we all have the power and the ability to change our mindset. It's something so simple of, like, right now you're smiling. You just changed
Yeah.
your mindset. You're just changed your energy level. When we think about things that are depressing and that bother us and they're upsetting and our stresses, how what's our physiology? How are you when you think about a time when you were upset and depressed and lonely or struggling, what was your physiology? How are you sitting? How are you standing? What was the expression on your face? You know? And then think about a time when you were really happy. Like, what was the time when you accomplished something or you felt really good about yourself? How did you stand then?
Mm.
What was your outlook on life? What did your face look like? How were you sitting? Was your head up or was it down? What was the lightness in your voice? You can think about those times and immediately change your physiology, immediately change your mindset. So it's a really powerful thing.
Super. And I love the instantaneousness of it. When you find yourself in that negative place, you can change it in an instant.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Really
It's
cool.
just a matter of getting into that habit, and
Mm.
the more you practice it, like anything, the easier it becomes. And so, sometimes you might spend a day being depressed or being down or feeling upset about something. But the more you get into the practice of changing your mindset, 2 months from now, maybe something happens and it's upsetting, but you spend 5 minutes on it thinking about it as opposed to the day
Yes.
thinking about it.
So cool. So cool. So fascinating. So fascinating and so powerful. Thank you for all those tips and tools. What is something that you're working on in your life right now to better yourself?
Oh, I love that. That's a great question. I have decided to continue my yoga training.
Ah,
So I am currently doing that, my 200 yoga hour training. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to implementing that into some of the events we're hoping to have this summer and
cool.
some of our retreats. And that's been a really nice way for me to start sort of step aside from the business and the working life and invest in myself
Mm,
and take that time to meditate, to breathe,
mm,
to get that exercise in, to get that stretch in, and really explore that flexibility. Because when you feel that physically, you feel it mentally too, right? So you just open your mind and you see things in a different way. So yeah, so investing in yourself is a really powerful thing.
very cool. Very cool. So what's the future for Jenny Ma?
Well, the clinic is going well. We're helping a lot of people, and I love to see that. I love inspiring people, and so that will continue. We've got our magazine. I put out a monthly magazine every month called Inspire Magazine.
Yes, you do, and it's
Um,
phenomenal. I'm so
Thank
impressed
you.
with the wonderful content in there. It's very, very well done, and it's enormous. Like I said, the content is so full. I couldn't believe that you do that every single month. It's a full magazine.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Yeah, it's a passion project. It takes about a full month to put it together each month, but
Yeah,
I started a new series this month on organs and organ systems. So we're going to be choosing a new organ every month to talk about. And this month I chose the liver. It's one of my favorite organs, the liver. I don't not sure if you know much about the liver, but it's one of the hardest working organs in the body. It's got over 500 jobs that it does every day, and so talk about what the function of the liver is and the phase one, phase two pathways and how we detoxify and how we can support the liver and its functions. So we'll be doing that every month, and then I have the podcast Real Talk with Jenny Ma, and
yeah,
that's on Spotify and iTunes and iHeartRadio. Just recently picked us up. So
very cool. And so how
yeah.
can people access your magazine as well? Where can we find that?
Yeah, so you can go to the website. The website is www.mindfulhealthicc.com, and you can just go to the tab that says Inspire, and we've got each month's magazine there. You can download it for free. It's just something that I want to offer people, something of value that I hope brings value and joy into their life and gives them a little bit of a taste of mindfulness and the mindfulness-based approach to counseling and coaching. and it's a good chance to learn a few things and to dip their toes into to mindful based techniques. And it's totally free every month. It's there. They can download it right from the
So
website.
cool. So
Mhm.
cool. I just applaud you and I honor everything that you're doing, Jenny. Thank you for everything that you do and all the support you offer in so many different ways, from one-on-one support with your clients to free support to so many people who may or may not be able to afford your services. So really,
Thank
you're
you.
you're incredible. And I also want to honor how you've integrated so many different experiences in your life and brought them to this culmination of your expertise, which is a beautiful talent that you
Thank you.
have. Just I hear med school coming back in the when you're talking about the liver, I hear you reaching back and
Yeah.
drawing from all those experiences, which is a really cool talent that you have.
Thank you, thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been a I think I'll be a forever student. I'm one of those. I love learning, and I'm always, researching and looking for the latest in the news and everything. So it's all stuff that I bring back to the table. So I really appreciate that. And even in the, the music, when we talk about music, we offer mindful music at the clinic, and connecting to the different frequencies that have such a powerful effect on us at a cellular level to change our mood and our health and well-being and cellular regeneration. It's just really powerful. Those classes are really amazing.
Very cool. Very cool. So, Jenny, what do you think your superpower is?
Oh, my superpower, I would say that would be understanding. Yeah,
Ooh.
understanding. Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have been exposed to a lot of different environments, situations, cultures, people, and that has provided me with a great ability to really understand why people do what they do.
Mm,
And I think that's really helped not only me in having the opportunity to help them, but I think it's helped others in having the opportunity to feel like they have a safe space to come
mm,
to talk about tough stuff that not a lot of people would really condone or understand or take the time to listen to. So I'd say understanding.
wow. That's a great superpower. Very unique. And what would you say your definition of happiness is? Since we're on the business of happiness.
Definition of happiness. Oh, that's a good question. It's one of those things that it's like unattainable, attainable, attainable, unattainable, attainable. Definition of happiness. I would say being content that you are doing the right things for yourself and those around you.
Hmm, hmm.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Do you think, how do you feel? Do you feel like that is attainable or unattainable?
Yeah, I think it's different for everybody, and I think it's something that we should continually strive towards. I think you can always improve on everything that you're doing, and I say not every day is going to be a good day. Just some are better than others, you know.
Mm,
And so what we're happy about one day may not fulfill us the next day, but we can look for ways in which to top that up.
mm,
We can look for ways to fill ourselves and fill our soul. So we can look for the happiness, we can search for the happiness, we can grab hold of the happiness, and we can continue to do that. And as long as we're doing the right thing, it's always the right thing.
mm.
And when we do things that are good for ourselves, that will have that, as you say, that ripple effect for other people. So doing things to fill you up and your soul and your mind and your body, and making yourself happy by feeling content about who you are and where you're at and where you're going. Yeah, I think that's a great thing.
I love that. And just having that intention is
Yes.
enough. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Really cool. Really cool. Well, I have to say, this has just been an incredible conversation. And I thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. I'm so honored to be able to share you with this audience and for them to be able to find you. And please know that in the show notes, we have all the links if you are interested in finding out more about Jenny and her incredible support that she offers her community. And before we go, Jenny, I would love
Yes.
to know if this incredible magazine that you've created were to disappear and all your hard work and real talk with Jenny and Jay disappeared, and you knew that you could have us and our rapt attention for 30 seconds, what final thought would you leave us with for us to take on into our future in terms of maintaining that positive mindset that you value so much and that you support your clients with?
I would say without a shadow of a doubt, life is for living. Life is for living. Don't let anybody or anything stop you from accomplishing your goals. And a great place to start is to start.
I love it. I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Taryn.
It has been such a pleasure getting to know you, Jenny. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
And thank you to our audience for joining us today. And there you have it. Great place to start is a great place to start. Take that with you today. And for the rest of the day, I hope you have a wonderful day. We look forward to seeing you and chatting with you again next time. Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.